I'm Roy Potter, a former U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel. Welcome to the Potter Expositor. Hi ladies and gentlemen, today is April 4th, 2017, and this is kind of a follow-up to my last video, Slaughter of Innocents. And I want to encourage you to get involved with the organizations that I'm going to bring up here at the end of this little presentation. Pedophilia is an institutional problem. It's not just a problem in individuals. For instance, the one lone individual that Salon was talking to some time ago who was saying, "Hey, I'm no monster." You may remember that. If not, you should go look it up. Salon promotes a pedophile, that he's not a horrible monster. But I don't want to talk about the individuals because, you know, we think that these types of things, these perversions, are not often happening in society. And in fact, just the opposite is the case with pedophilia, because it's tied into satanic ritual abuse. It's tied into elitist, governmental level type of secret societies, and this is how they keep people in line and make sure that they're going to do what they're supposed to do. Plus, they believe that it unleashes some type of evil spiritual power for them. They don't consider it evil, but that's of course what it is. So that's the important thing that you need to pull away from this, is that it's now a massive institutional problem. If you do a search of pedophilia, especially the institutional type, you will not find stories at the top of the search levels. In other words, when you do a search engine and you say, you know, pedophile governments or whatever, you're going to come up with tabloid type of articles, like, and I'm not saying these are bad papers, but it's what they'll throw at you first, things that people can argue about before it's news. The Inquirer, U.S. Sun, you know, whatever. I don't know all the names of them because there were so many. Some that I've never heard of. And basically what those are is, even if some of the investigations are good, they're attacked because they say that they're not reliable sources. I might argue with that on the National Enquirer, but at any rate. So what you find is that even on these search engines, which of course are controlled mostly by Google and people like that, the really good articles that show that there was really something happen, and I hate to say that these are good articles because obviously the MSM is involved in covering this up, but the Washington Post, the New York Times, the BBC, the CNN, all of those types of articles are way down on the list. You'll have to go through several pages of search before you get to them, so they're not at the top where you would think that they would be. And this is obviously an institutional attempt across the board to keep these things out of the public eye. So I'm going to show you a few things here, and the reason why I'm doing this is because this has been with us for a long time. It's getting worse. We know that President Trump has taken it seriously. They've arrested over 3,000 pedophiles at the supplier level now. They've released hundreds of women and children who have been in bondage for a long time. And he's working up the ladder, and he's going to find, if he keeps this up, that there are people at the upper levels. The reason why government officials, corporations, and all that are giving him so much trouble, because even though this is part of their secret societies, the way they gain power, the fact of the matter is it's a gateway to so many other things. So let me just show you a few things here on the screen, and I think you'll find these interesting. We start off with the Catholics. Of course, we've heard about that before, the cover-up in the Catholic Church. But here's one, back in the 90s, and I was involved in some of this investigation, is Elder Pace of the LDS Church talking about satanic ritual abuse. It kind of tied in also to the Franklin cover-up, but I'm not at liberty to go there, so I'm only just going to mention it in passing. Of course, all these things, oh, we investigated and there's nothing to it. That's always the way it is. You'll find that police agencies, federal government agencies, look at the FBI, how they covered up Clinton's deal. And they're also covering up the things with Epstein and all that other stuff as far as the politicians are concerned. And all that will come out if we just have the courage to go look for it. I mentioned businesses. The U.S. military has noticed that people like DynCorp have been involved in this, and I could probably mention some more, but I'm just giving you some examples. It's not just, you know, these corporations and religious institutions. In Britain, for instance, you know, here we have a situation where a lot of politicians and the elites were being covered for. We have the Jimmy Savile thing, and you can go back and look at these as you have time. You can bring them up and look at them a little bit closer and then go search them. Jimmy Savile, that tied into the royal family even, to the nobles and the elites. And then we find Scotland Yard at one time opened up a case and was told to shut it down, and then later was accused of the cover-up, as you see here. Now, Obama, or the Omaha, I should say, Obama and Omaha are very similar. The Omaha Franklin cover-up involved a scandal in a credit union, and there were some things that were going on, but I'm just going to skip past and just show you this. Senator Camp said in the 90s, when this whole thing was going on, that his investigation led all the way back to Pennsylvania, to Penn State even. We found that out when the Penn State Sandusky thing broke, and he reminded everybody, or I should say the reporters who did that initially and called him a kook, went back to him and said, hey, it turns out you're right. So here we have that. Sandusky was, of course, that whole scandal broke 2 decades later approximately. And now, lo and behold, we have Sandusky's son. Now, what did I say about this thing going in communities? And there are these communities rampant throughout the country, just like any culture. They'll group together into communities so that they can protect each other and control the narrative. Jerry Epstein, Lolita Express and all that, where we know politicians have gone there. Congressman, I should say, Dennis Hastert. Very obvious a few years ago. The interesting thing about Hastert is that his House and government friends went to bat for him and say, oh, you know, he's really not that bad, you know, give him some leniency. No, he should have been castrated or executed. That's the kind of thing that we give into these things because all these people are surrounded. Now, I didn't see this, but I understand that he, under the radar, told his friends and his compatriots there in the government that if they took him down, he'd take them with him. So he ended up actually suing his victim because the victim released the information. Can you imagine that? No, sex offenders should be plastered everywhere, but of course, you know, he's of the privileged class. And this is what I mean by institutional protection. U.S. government generally, some things that have been happening there. And now, of course, we have the many in this new American slavery, they call it. And we have 3,000 plus arrests so far, as I mentioned earlier, and the release of the imprisoned women and children. And finally, of course, there's WikiLeaks and the Wiener emails. This isn't just an anomaly. This is institutionalized perversion for power and control. And we need to address that. So, government has been slow. Frankly, Trump is the only one that's really gone after it fast this time. And hopefully, like I said, when it gets to the upper levels of government, he won't get a liver that starts to fail him. In other words, I hope he doesn't lose his nerve, because this is going to go into some really bad spots. But in the meantime, as this is going on, there are 2 websites I would like you to go to. The first is vetsforchildrescue.org. It's by famous Navy SEAL Craig Sawyer is heading this up. And the second is one of the ones that I was involved in starting up as well, and that's www.opdeepstate.com. Go there and see if you can lend your support in any way. Craig Sawyer said that I could promote this, I guess because I'm a vet, and that was a good idea for him. And so I'm passing it on to you. Alright, that's as far as I'll take it. Just know that this is serious. They're after our children. They're after the destruction of the healthy, wholesome relationships of men and women, trying to mix up their roles so they can destroy mankind. Literally, that's what this is about. I won't mention anything in particular about that, but I've noticed some things in the news here lately where people in these outer groups are being promoted into positions of authority, like at the United States Air Force Academy and places like that. And diversity is just an excuse for the destruction of mankind, destruction of real culture, wholesome life. They choose death. Out here for now.